like to call the meeting to order, please. Johanna, will you read the statement of compliance?
The notice requirements of the Open Public Meeting Act for this meeting have been satisfied. A copy of the annual meeting notice was sent to the press of Atlantic City, Star Ledger, posted on the bulletin board in the municipal building, the municipal website, and filed in the office of the municipal clerk. Please turn off all cell phones.
Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Attention to the I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Johanna, please take the roll.
Mayor Collins,
Here.
Commissioner Blumberg,
I am here.
Commissioner Horn,
Here.
Welcome, everybody, and thank you for coming. As we all know, we're expecting a high tide in a couple hours, so we will try to be as efficient as possible to get everybody home safely tonight. We will begin, as always, with our engineering report. Ed?
Thank you, Mayor. I will move briskly. Starting out with our dredging project, I mentioned at the last couple meetings that we have 2 letters of acceptance for our disposal sites. We submitted those up to DEP, and we actually saw a flurry of emails this week from the DEP permit processing system. So it is moving through their system now that we've given them hopefully the last piece of information that they need. I did send a message to try to get a more detailed update. I haven't seen anything yet, but if I get anything before the end of the meeting, I'll give us a real-time update on where we stand. But I think we're really close on our permit application for dredging from the DEP. We've also sent in our application to Army Corps. That's working its way through the system. There's been a public notice issued. So good progress there. No update on Shelter Island. That's also in progress as our ultimate disposal site. The Washington Avenue Streetscape project, which we've had a lot of discussion on, is currently out to bid. There is a bid opening scheduled for September 11th for that project. The Amherst Avenue Flood Resiliency Improvement Project is working its way through the Green Acres process. We did get some feedback from Green Acres this month that we're on track for what they meet quarterly. So their next meeting, I think, is in December. So we, if everything stays on track, we could be on track to get the diversion approved at that meeting, which would be great news to move that project forward. So keep everybody updated there. The new Public Works building, we're trying to schedule a meeting for sometime next week to take a look at some options to value engineer that building, and then we can report back on what directions we may head in. The Ventnor Avenue parking lot project, no update. The plans were submitted. We received some comments from the county engineer's office. We addressed those comments and resubmitted the plans, so we're just waiting to hear back if there are any additional comments on that site plan. Next couple projects on the list are in the design phase. That's the next phase of Atlantic Avenue from Huntington to Mansfield and the 2025 road program. No update on our stormwater compliance work. We are coordinating that with the Public Works Department, so we continue to work on the information that the DEP has requested. No update under CRS. The next recertification won't be until next year, but we'll keep working on that to make sure we maintain our rating in the CRS system. Under pending grant applications, we have a couple on the list there that we are still waiting to hear back on. One of them is our DOT grant that was just submitted last month. So once we hear back, we'll report on that and move these projects into design. Jumping down to our construction projects, no update under maintenance bonds. We have a couple projects that we moved into the closeout phase, so those have come off the list, and we can now close those out. The 2023 road program is on pause and will resume in the fall with work on Bayshore Drive, Fredericksburg Avenue, and Argyle Court. Thurlow Avenue project is substantially complete. We're just working on punch lists that will move into closeout soon. And then turning to the last page of the report, the Sigrim restroom building is under construction. And then the next few projects were all recently awarded. The Winchester Avenue project, we had a pre-construction meeting. That'll be construction will start in the fall. Likewise, the road program will also start in the fall. And on our lead service line replacement project, we had our pre-construction meeting. We won't see any physical construction starting to the fall, but the contractor has begun the outreach process to contact private property owners that they may need to access their properties. And as I mentioned in previous meetings, there'll be a more robust outreach process administered by the city to support the contractor on this project. And then the last project on the list is the Atlantic Ave Bike Lane painting project, also scheduled to start after we repave that next section of Atlantic Avenue. And one postscript on the Winchester Avenue project, we did reach out to that contractor and another contractor to get a price to repave the public works yard. The city recently received notice that needs to be repaved for safety reasons. So we got some pricing on that, and we'll take a look at that information, send it into Pat, and see if it's something that we could do as part of one of those contracts to get that where it needs to be. And that's my report.
Great, thank you, Ed. All right, we'll move to our department head reports. Chief Adams?
I'll be very brief. One, everything's fine and moving smoothly in the fire department. Just to give a beach patrol update, we've had our beaches closed to swimming and bathing since Tuesday. They will remain closed, including tomorrow, and then they will reevaluate the situation based upon the conditions. The information will be posted on the city Facebook, the Beach Patrol Instagram, the city webpage, and shared by other city departments on their Facebook pages. Chief Graves took a proactive stance to assure the safety of our lifeguards and our beach patrons and decided to keep the people out of the water. If you were down there today and saw it, you would completely understand why that decision was made, and it is the right decision. They did remove the equipment that they needed to with the help of Public Works to assure that nothing would be damaged or lost, and that's all I have to report for now, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Lisa?
Good afternoon. I'll be brief as well. The only thing I really want to report is I recently received finally the proposal from Atlantic City Electric for Phase 2 for the LED replacement lighting project. As you know, we funded Phase 2 back in 2023, and it's taken this long to get the proposal. We funded $325,000. It did come in under that $314,000. I forwarded the agreement to Pat for his review, and if everything is acceptable, we should have it on the agenda for the next meeting to be authorized. Once Phase 2 is completed, there will be one remaining phase. I do not yet have a cost for that, but it should be substantially less because there will only be 6 streets remaining. So that's all I have in regards to that. Other than that, just been busy trying to gear up for year end. Before you know, we'll be sending out the budget documents to all the departments for their review. And if there's anything that's needed to be funded for capital coming up, please let me know because I can work on that as well. Other than that, just busy. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Lisa. Chief Hankinson?
Thank you, Mayor, Commissioners. I'll be brief as well. As we all know, it continues to be another extremely busy summer for the police department. To date, the police department, we've had, since the beginning of the year, 12,396 calls for service. I think the increase in the calls for service can be attributed to the number of people that we can all see that are around town, on our beaches, enjoying our restaurants and our nightlife. So summer's been very busy around town, but it's been very good too. The police department's annual Law Day was postponed yesterday due to the weather. We were able to reschedule for next Wednesday, August 27th at 6:30 at the Margate Library. I'd love to see everybody come out, kind of the end of the summer event. And a last reminder, I say at every meeting, please remember to lock your vehicles. Not only lock your vehicles, but take your keys inside. We had another stolen vehicle this morning. Keys were left in the center console. So again, we could really thwart a lot of this by locking our car and taking our keys inside, locking our cars and houses. That's all I have.
Thank you, Chief. Scott?
All is quiet, Mayor. I don't have anything to add.
Thank you. Pat?
Basically worked on contracts, dealt with personnel matters, met with the NBA regarding some pop-ups. Myself and Chief went over a couple things regarding those issues. Been doing the interviews with our tax collector, assisted the fire department with their new hires and got to meet them. We had a call for a damage to streets during a construction issue. I went out to and made sure that we took care of that. I've been on constant phone calls and different things regarding the green team. We had the garden signs that were doctor last week, and then, of course, we've been looking at the blowers and stuff. So, we're doing the legwork on that. That's it for now.
All right, thank you.
Mike, before we open up to public, related to the Washington Avenue streetscape program, I think that, and I know that there's a resolution on tonight, 228. I think that, and I've been thinking a lot about this, and I've been talking to a lot of people over the past couple of weeks, and I think it's our job as commissioners to make decisions based upon the input and views of the overall public. And I can tell you that everybody that I talk to is against making Washington Avenue one-way. They don't have a problem with the project, with the infrastructure improvements of the project, with the streetscape part of the project. What they have a problem with is the making of Washington Avenue one-way. And so my question for public discussion with you and Kathy is, can we consider this project in an altered form that would not include a one-way street? And in that regard, we would have to ask Ed to write an alternate to the bid that's out for bid. And we would, again, I understand that we might risk losing some grant money, but free money is not free if the people of the city aren't in favor of the project. And again, no one that I have talked to is in favor of seeing this street go one way. They believe that there's nothing broken about it and that we're fixing something that isn't broken. And so, again, that would be my question for you and Kathy. Could we consider this project without the one-way component?
So, I mean, my response to that would be that it's really not a project without it going one way, because we wouldn't be able to have the bike lane. The whole purpose of this, there's a lot of discussion at the last meeting, so I did a lot of research to kind of see where this developed from and where it came from. So we talked about the master plan at the last meeting. The master plan 2015, 2016. The number one issue that came out of the master plan discussions, and these were discussions that involved all stakeholders. So they involved, there were about half a dozen meetings with all business owners in Margate. Retail was one. They dealt with bars and restaurants with one. They had all these meetings, and this Washington Avenue issue became a major discussion, and that's how it got implemented into the master plan. So there were multiple meetings, and Ed, I know you guys were involved in the master plan heavily, and out of that master plan came the promenade. So the promenade that we now have along our bayfront, that was part of that, and connecting the promenade. Everybody was concerned about connecting our bayfront to our Ventnor Avenue and Atlantic Avenue business districts. So this Washington Avenue project, was part of that discussion. And I was able to find, so there were Rich Deeney, who was our administrator at the time in 2022, at the end of 2022, sent an email to the commission at the time, which was Mayor Becker, Commissioner Amadeo, and Commissioner Blumberg, about the concept plan that Remington Burnick established for this, creating Washington Avenue to a one-way street. So that was November 2nd of 2022. The following day, there was a commission meeting, and as part of workshop, Ed presented that to the public, presented the concept about going one way from there. At that point, since then, so going back to 2022, we've had 5 resolutions passed in reference to this project, to advance this project, applying for the grant. We had to get an extension for the grant because of some of the revisions that Ed and Remington Burnick had to do, based on the public feedback we got. And, as early as, or I guess as late as our July 17th meeting, there was a resolution to put this out to bid. Every single one of those resolutions were unanimously voted in the affirmative. We talk about public outreach and these meetings, and I think again, most of the people in the public here come to every meeting and they see this engineer's report, and some may think it's repetitive because Ed goes through the same projects, and sometimes there's updates, sometimes there's not, but the projects that are on there stay on there until they're complete. And as of, from November 2022 to today, Washington Avenue has been on this agenda and been discussed, and Ed has given updates at every meeting if there have been updates. And my personal opinion, I understand the people you're talking to are not in favor. The last, say, dozen or so people that I've talked to in the last week or two all have been in favor of it and kind of questioning, I don't get it, what's the problem? I think it's great. I think, again, the project doesn't exist without it going one way, unfortunately, unless we take over people's properties and widen the street and do something like that. And I don't think that would be favorable to any of the homeowners or business owners on that street.
There's still over $2 million of infrastructure improvements that we're doing in the project. Is that not right?
I don't know the total, but those infrastructure.
We're doing all the water and all the sewer and all the utilities. So to say that there is no project is, not really the case. Yeah, we could postpone that and do that at another time and do some other streets that might be more important from an infrastructure standpoint.
Yeah,
But
we could
there
do.
still is a project. We could also use that $2 million and try and offset some of the costs that we're going to incur when we try and build this new public works building. So the idea is that for me, again, there are a lot of people that don't like the one-way aspect. And so I think the answer to my question to you is no, you would not support the project unless it had the one-way component.
Taking the one-way component, as you just said, makes it a road program project where we're just paving the road and doing infrastructure.
And a streetscape. Beautifying that corridor, which, again, I don't know that there's any master planners here, but I think back then, 10 years ago, the idea was that we were going to have more businesses between Atlantic and Washington, and that never came to fruition. It's more residential now than it is businesses. Back then, they were thinking that the whole Wawa block would be businesses and restaurants, and they were thinking that the CVS block would be more businesses and restaurants, and that never happened. That didn't come to fruition. So right now, what we have is really a residential corridor. So I don't think that, in that regard, the master plan concept holds a ton of weight. Only that what happened then and what's happening now are different. And the people now, again, if the majority of the people that you're talking to are good with the street being one way and they think that we need this bike lane, then so be it. Then that's what you need to do. For me, I can't support that street going one way based upon the views of the people that I talk to. And again, maybe they're all old senior citizens that aren't riding bikes. I don't know. I ride my bike more than anybody, and I've never had a problem with it. But the tax dollars that we're going to spend for the value that we're going to receive, the people that I'm talking to aren't in favor of it. And so that's the point I wanted to make. Kathy, how do you feel about this?
I had a lot of the same concerns with the one-way street initially that everyone else had. And I met with Ed, I attended a meeting. There were several businesses represented at that meeting I was at. The chief was there. I listened to everyone, and I left okay with it, other than the resistance to change. And I had to ask myself, was it just my resistance to change? Or is this something that's, so I listened. Everybody that was there was for it. I have spoken recently to a couple of the businesses, and they are, the ones I spoke to, other than the ones that have come here and complained, there are other ones that are for it. And it's kind of, it goes both ways. There's some people that don't want it, there's some people that do want it. And I sympathize with the people that don't want it, but again, I don't hear anything other than a little resistance to change and why do we have to do it? And I was with you guys, and I had to ask those questions to myself, and I've been convinced that this is the right thing to do. And I remember when we made Amherst one way from like tomatoes from Longport to, I was livid. And I'm like, this is the stupidest thing ever. Why would we do this? Now I don't even remember it being two ways. So I get it, but I think this is part of moving forward. If it's horrible, can we change it? What happens then? If I can't imagine, like, what would be horrible? Accidents? Well, then we would definitely change things. But
Okay. Good,
Thank you.
Commissioner?
Yep.
All right, we will now move forward with public comment. If anyone has any comment about any items discussed in this meeting, please step forward, state your name and address.
Hi, everyone. My name is Nick Gargano, Washington Avenue, 204. And again, I just don't even understand what the plan is. I mean, it's changed so many times. Lived on the street for 20-some years. You think the residents would be notified about what we're really going to do and what the plans are. We don't. Just for instance, the other night, here's a picture of the flooding. It's down by Tomatoes Restaurant. So if we have a one-way street, first of all, everyone's have to turn around and go the opposite way. So the one-way street goes away because people do U-turns in a one-way street to go the opposite way to avoid the flooding. I think it's a bad plan. I'm a fanatic with my yard. Putting the red brick in front of my house, I'm opposed to it just personally, because anything with brick that has space is going to get dirt from the flooding, things coming up out of the bay, going to go into the brick, into space. I'm going to have nothing but weeds. You want to beautify Washington Avenue? Making a bunch of red brick with weeds in them is not a way to make it pretty. It's a way to make it ugly. My feelings. And again, as the gentleman up here said, Marty said, everybody on Washington Avenue, residents that have been here for 20-some years, no one ever asked us what we feel. Like, no one cares about our opinion. Like, you said you spoke to somebody that is in favor. You said you spoke to someone in favor. Well, I'm on the street every day, and I haven't talked to anyone yet that is in favor. So that's my point. We got a flooding incident that people are going to do U-turns in the flood and go the opposite way on a one-way street. If we get 10 bikes a day going by Washington Avenue, it's a lot. I'm out there every day working in my yard. I don't see a bike all day long. And I want to thank everyone for their time, and I pray you put in consideration our feelings.
Thank you.
Joe DiLorenzo, 101 North Washington Avenue. 2 weeks ago, residents and business owners expressed their opposition to the Washington Avenue corridor project, citing safety, access, and congestion. Out of frustration, Elizabeth Aversa, who testified at the meeting, collected over just one weekend, just by putting against the project on her counter, over 200 signatures in 2 days. So there is an extreme amount of opposition. Mayor, I disagree with your assessment about reaching out to businesses. We were never notified. The chief, in his own emails, Chief Adams, did not know that it was a one-way project until April 24th, 2025. So I disagree with your assessment that you reached out or have spoken to. You met with us. It was the first time we knew that it was a one-way It is your obligation, this administration's obligation, to notify and stay in contact with us, not for us to reach out to you and find out, and now come in and it's just moving along, and we really have no say. I attended a meeting last night, let's go back, in another town. Ed Dennis was the engineer. It was something that I'd like to see here. Ed Dennis did an unbelievable job. They were discussing a project, 33rd Street, there was another issue, fire chief, the commissioners, the mayor, Ed. Within 5 to 7 minutes, everything was accomplished, all out in the open, all transparency, and it was a great job by Ed, outstanding engineer. So any comments that I make, or any time I mention Ed's name or Ed Remington and Vernon, none of it is directed at Ed at all. My problem is this project just does not make any sense. So 2 weeks ago when I testified about it, we had over-requested information, and there were no emails, I guess from Commissioner Horn, to Dan Adams, our fire chief. So Commissioner Horn, we've seen a traffic study performed by Remington and Vernon. It was an undated day in August of, I guess, last year. And so as Commissioner of Public Safety, have you thought about, or have you requested an impact study now that we have an additional 325 extra seats along Amherst Avenue? Can you explain to us what steps you've taken to ensure safety since the last commission meeting? And have you spoken with Chief Adams or any residents or business owners since the last August 7th meeting?
I have. Chief Hankinson has been at every meeting to deal with those issues. Chief Adams was not there as far as I'm aware of. However, he did at one point, well, the meeting I was at, we talked about there were some adjustments made for fire trucks and what have you. I did talk to Chief Adams, tell him that, and he said I should have been there. I said, you're absolutely right. And I believe at that point is when Chief Adams got involved and was assured that his trucks could make the turns. I have spoken to business owners since that meeting, 2 in particular, that did tell me they like it. They don't understand the resistance. That's 2, only 2, but I have spoken to several since that meeting.
That's 2. Well, why not us, Commissioner?
Oh.
Why not us? Why not the residents along Washington Avenue?
I heard your concerns at that last
In
meeting.
1996, I'll go back just a little bit, and Scott was around way back then. We took a project along the bay, and this is when nobody wanted to be in Margate. When investing in Margate was a crapshoot. We put in infrastructure in, we put in bulkheads, sidewalks, curbs, buried utilities. We did restricted houses. So we spent millions of dollars not only on that project, we worked along with the city to help develop the project at 101 Washington Avenue. So we invested millions of dollars into this town before anybody wanted to. So we have a little bit of standing, and to be completely ignored, and people walking by our building, I have 9 tenants in the building, all businesses. Why weren't we notified? It just makes no sense at all. It was okay, here's the project, we're going to do it. I mean, it's not transparency. It's mind-boggling, and not to understand how are we going to get the CVS? How are you going to get to the businesses up on now if you're making it one way? It doesn't make sense. You don't believe that you're hurting business. That's why we need an impact study, and maybe take it to a referendum.
Ed, was an impact study done?
So we performed a traffic survey, which is what's required by statute to do the one-way conversion, and, that's available for review. Kind of summarizes it.
That's a 2-page, right?
Yep, it's a summary of the traffic counts and the results of that review.
Last year, was done last year, the one that was done last year?
During the summer of last year.
So
yeah.
nothing's been updated, right? Is that correct? Okay. All right, that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe.
Hi, Sherry Lilienfeld. I'm on Wellington Avenue, Margate, full-time resident. This is for Chief Hankinson. Just out of curiosity, because you're always talking about the stolen vehicles, how many have we had this year, approximately?
I
I would be hesitant to give you an exact number, but we usually average probably between 10 and 15 a year. And 90% of those are because the keys are left in the vehicles. And we actually have a very good recovery rate because we kind of know where most of them end up.
I was just gonna say, do you end up recovering them? Do
Yes.
they-
They usually end up, sometimes we have recovered them as far as Camden and Trenton. Most of the time, Atlantic City, Pleasantville, Galloway area, but we have a very good recovery rate. And even today, the vehicle that was stolen last night, we had 3 LPR hits, and we know exactly where it left, when it went into Ventnor, when it hit the expressway,
What's LPR?
license plate readers.
Oh, sorry.
Other towns have automated license plate readers as they get into their towns. We do not have them. Ventnor has them. So the vehicle, we know where the vehicle went
Okay.
when it exited Margate.
I mean, like, we're a small little island, we're 1.6
It does.
miles.
I'm glad people are very comfortable in our low crime rate, but that does not mean we should still lock our doors, lock our cars, lock our bikes, because crime never takes a holiday.
Okay. And then, I mean, you didn't talk about, I know it's come up a lot, about the destruction of properties and the urination, along Amherst Avenue. That's been coming up in other meetings. So, like, has that improved since we have the porta potties and stuff?
We've had basically no complaints so far this summer. We installed the 4 porta potties along Amherst Avenue. We've done a lot of details, plain clothes at night, it's another set of eyes on the street. We've written approximately 50 to 60 summonses for public urination. It started very heavy. It's during Memorial Day weekend, and like I said, we've gotten nothing but good reviews.
That's great. So the porta potties are helping, and so is your detailing. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Sherry. Do we have any more public comment?
Hi, my name is Bob Barnick. My wife and I, Kathy, live at 8601 Fulton Avenue in Margate, and just want to express our support for the dredging that's proposed. In listening to the engineer, it sounds like there is the DEP is in process, seems to be moving along. The Army Corps of Engineers sounds like it might take a little bit longer, and I'm just curious if there's any other delays or anticipated at this point.
No, the major hangup was our disposal site where our contractor would take the dredging material, and we had one lined up with the state, and it fell through, and we now have 2 disposal sites that we've listed on the permit, and all indications are that that was the last piece of the puzzle before the permit could be issued.
Okay, and so the dredging is going to be removed and taken off-site as opposed to someplace in the bay? Is that?
To start,
Back bay?
yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, to start.
Meaning that the Shelter Island site you've heard us refer to,
Yes.
or maybe you haven't, is ultimately where we want to be able to dispose of this material because
Great.
it'll be more cost effective.
Yep.
But that site requires its own separate permit that's a little bit more complicated, but that is also in progress.
Okay, great. I noticed there are 6 phases to the dredging, and we're probably in group 4. And just sort of curious, it looks like it's 9 to 12 weeks per area. I'm assuming the dredging would start in front of, like, say, tomatoes and work its way out toward, phase number 6.
So I don't think we've nailed down really the order of phases or anything at this point. Those phases are, they're sectioned out, but I don't think we have an exact plan on how this would be phased out as far as implementation.
Yeah, Bob, we're still looking into that, and there's also restrictions on when we can dredge. I believe June to December, somewhere thereabouts. So, some areas are going to be very difficult to dredge in the summer because of marine traffic. So there may be areas that take higher priority because they can be, dredged during that time frame, and that may adjust our timeline and, priority of zones. But
Okay, makes sense.
all still in the works.
Okay. Also curious, in taking a look at your proposal, it appears as though the dredging would go out as far as about 100 feet, but would come in towards our bulkheads to what might appear to be water, our docks, that sort of thing. Is there any sort of availability to pay to have that portion dredged up to our bulkhead?
Yep, so the idea of this permit is that, once we have this permit in place, the city has areas of dredging that are, we'll call it city-owned areas. And then, like you mentioned, there are areas on the plans that you're referring to that are privately owned. Any private property owner could use our permit to dredge your private property, either with your own contractor, or when the city hires a contractor to do the city piece, the contract will be set up so that a private property owner could use our contractor to dredge their private property at their expense.
Okay, and if I understand it correctly, you're estimating to go down about 5 feet, plus or minus a foot, or perhaps plus a foot?
Yeah, so they typically give you a foot plus or minus of overdredge, and the depth that we can go down to is dictated by the DEP. We tried to go down actually an extra foot, and they wouldn't let us.
We wanted 6.
Yep.
They went to 5.
Fine, and that's mean,
Mean low water.
Mean low
mean
water.
no water.
Below mean low water.
Okay, thank you.
Great, thank you, Bob.
Good evening. I'm Jeff Kurtzman. I live at 414 North Mansfield Avenue, and I'm a tenant at 101 North Washington. And to the commissioner's point, I have yet to speak to anybody about the Washington Avenue project that is in favor of it. To Joe DiLorenzo's point, he asked whether the question could be subjected to a referendum to the extent that it involves, in my view, significant taxpayer investment. And I would appreciate if you could comment on whether this should be put to a vote so we can see exactly what the numbers are in favor and opposed. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff.
Hi, Jan Weber, 90 Gilmore Circle. Thank you. To what most people have spoken about tonight, the Washington Avenue project, I am a member of the Citizens Advisory Committee, so in that capacity, I have done my due diligence, I believe, and asked many people around town what they think. Not one person has been in favor of it that I've spoken to. Most people weren't aware of it 2 months ago, so I'm not sure if and when it was initiated, if it was properly announced to people, residents. I think maybe, okay, so I have 2 questions. First of all, is there a time limit that this grant has to be used by? What is that date that it has to be finalized?
So we actually already passed that date, and they gave us an extension.
Okay, so what happens, what is that date? I'm sorry.
So the grant deadline actually has to do with when the city awards a construction contract. And that date passed. We got an extension. I might have it in my report here. The new date is, I'm sorry. We got a 60-day extension. I have it in my report. I just don't have the exact date that it was 60 days from. So it's more or less in line with when we would expect to award a contract, if a contract's awarded.
I'm sorry, so the date roughly is 60 days from when?
I don't have that in my report, but let's say by the end of September.
Okay, the end of September. What happens if we were to put a pause on it to address the concerns that so many citizens are expressing?
Just with regards to the grant, not, the policy decision one way or another, the grant agency, which is the NJDOT and Federal Highway, is expecting that a contract would be awarded. If we didn't move forward with the project, my assumption is that we could risk losing the funding. I suppose we could ask for another extension. I don't have a definitive answer now that we're at this point in the process with the project.
Okay, so I think Commissioner Blumberg had mentioned, it's a lot of money, but if you're not using it for the purpose of the citizenry, for your constituents, if they're not really in favor of what you're using it for, it's not really useful. So I think that, and what people express to me, is that we should pause and reevaluate what's going on, the different aspects of the project, and address some of the concerns that the citizens have expressed. That was one question I had for tonight. The second question is, has there been any movement forward regarding the audio and video for these meetings?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's been scheduled for quite some time. It's scheduled to be installed here in September 10th through the 17th, with training here on the 17th. We actually contracted that back in like May.
Okay, so that's still on track?
It certainly is.
Great.
There's no delays. We just got confirmation the other day.
Okay, great, thank you.
Yep.
Thank you.
Which way you want to go?
All right, is there a motion to close public comment?
Motion?
Second?
Mayor Collins?
Yes.
Commissioner Blumberg?
Yes.
Commissioner Horn?
Yes.
Is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion?
Second?
Mayor Collins?
Yes.
Commissioner Blumberg?
Yes.
Commissioner Horn?
Yes.